In this video we will trace the fuselage in order to create guides that we can use to create the fuselage skin. So first thing we're going to do is enter a sketch on the XZ plane, and I will add some guides to which we can connect a spline along the top contour. So here we'll throw in a line for the windscreen. We'll be able to create a tangency between this and the spline later. Just leave it as a construction element, and we'll fix the end coordinates points. And I'm going to add another line on the aft section of the fuselage here. We'll just pretend it's a fairly good approximation to assume that that's a linear slope. Okay, and then we'll add a spline going from the back point up to the windscreen. Just throw in a couple points, maybe four to 7, somewhere in there. The fewer points you have, the better curve you get as far as getting out wrinkles and things, but you need more points in order to create something more complex or to follow exactly what you want. So you have to find the balance. You can always add more points later. Here I'm adding a tangency to the first and the last points by checking the box. Then you can see a little green arrow shows up on the spline. Click on the little green arrow and the windscreen line, and you can create a parallelism constraint, or just a tangency. Here we did the parallelism and coincidence. That's one way to do it. And we'll do the same thing on the back end. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult to click on the tangency arrow, so what you can do is hover your mouse over it and press the up arrow key, and that'll give you some options of everything that's lying under your cursor that you can click on. So once you get that set up, now it's just a game of trying to get the points in the correct locations so that you can get rid of all the wrinkles and follow the drawing as best you can. I'm going to constrain this point to the line, the end point of the line. I'll add a tangency. Okay. And constrain. See here, I press the up arrow key. That gives you a selection of all the stuff that's under there, so you can keep pressing the arrow keys to highlight the thing you want. I'm just selecting the line out of the tree there because it's easier than trying to click on the line because it's hidden by the spline. So now we have this funky curve going on. Sometimes you get these tangencies on points in the middle or the end that are backward from the direction that you want, and that causes wrinkles like this. So you can go in and reverse tangent and see if that helps at all. In this case, I don't think that's our problem. So we try the points at the end, And you can see, obviously that's not correct. So we'll put it back the way it was. Click OK because I added a tangency to a point in the middle there. Check the front, and that's looks like it was right the first time. So you can see that there's some sort of medium in there where it gets about right just by moving the control points. You can also click on the line, drag up and down. That can help things too sometimes, like that. Usually it's a lot less of a precise maneuver. Another thing you can try is adding a construction line and creating a tangent to that. But usually this ends up just creating more problems for you, because it's one less thing that gets in your way when you're trying to move things, or one more thing that gets in your way. Yeah. But so I deleted that line, and we ended up with something that looks reasonable. Call it the top contour in the tree so we can find it later. Now we'll go back into the same plane, different sketch, and we'll do the bottom contour. Same principles apply. Again, I'm just fast forwarding here to get the points in the right direction. We'll set the front of the spline to the back edge of the nose cone. And that looks good. Name the sketch. Okay. Next thing we want to do is create a midline between the top and the bottom. So we'll go into a new sketch, same plane, and we'll project our previous two sketches into this sketch. And we're going to create a series of vertical lines. Generally don't like to have it auto-constrain things because that creates problems for you. So if you hold the Shift key when you're going to select points for the line, that turns off the auto-constraints. But then we'll just constrain this vertical to, or parallel to the V direction. In this case it wasn't giving me parallelism, so I'll set an angle to 180. And we'll put a point or constrain the line endpoints to the sketches that we had before. And reset the angle measurement or constraint there. It's given problems. Okay, then we'll add a spline. I don't know, 4 or 5 points from here back. Add in more vertical lines, one for each control point of the spline. Hide the sketch there so we can see what's going on. In the end, we want to be able to move these lines back and forth and not see any changes in the spline. So we're constraining each of these control points to the midpoint of the line. Then unconstruction object it. And there we go. call it aft mid contour because it's the mid point of the aft section of the plane, with the forward being the nose cone. Now we will do the same thing for the top views, except for we don't need a midline, because a midline is just a straight line because of the symmetry. But yeah, so just the contours of the edges. Start with the nose cone, which we will approximate with a circle, constraining the center of the circle to the center line of aircraft. Close enough. Add a spline. Can't see the back edge of the tail cone there, so we'll just kind of freehand it. Make sure that this is tangent. Add tangency. Okay. And obviously, because of the symmetry, we can just do a half model and reflect it over. Just mention that. Once we get the circle somewhere where we want it, fix it in place. Then go about adjusting all of our control points. I thought about constraining the aft point to the center line, but we're not going to do that. We'll leave it open in the back. We'll close it out later with some sort of cone-shaped thing once we have some 3D geometry. You'll see that in a later video. And it's a never-ending battle to try and get these points the way you like. And now we'll trim the circle with the magic eraser tool. That was not what we wanted. Control Z, your best friend, undo. And so we'll break the circle instead with the H axis there, horizontal axis. And you see we get half the circle. Make that a construction object. Break this with the point that coincides with the spline. And that looks fairly decent. You can always edit it later. Call that the port side contour. And for the starboard side, we will go into a new sketch and project the old sketch, or the port side sketch, into the new sketch and reflect it over the horizontal axis. We want these two contours to be two different sketches. You'll see why in a little bit. So now we kind of have some wireframe geometry, and we will continue this in the next video.